In this video, we are going to be talking about the 5 most stupid mistakes that we see guitar players making when they are learning guitar, when they're getting into this guitar learning journey. And if you're checking this back out on the replay, thank you so much for checking this out on the replay. If you're watching this on the replay in any of our other groups or any other groups on Facebook, hit the like button below and make sure that you are going to the group in the link above and joining the conversation and getting your guitar questions answered. We answer guitar questions live and we take your questions and we tackle your guitar problems in real time. So make sure you're going over there and checking that out. So without further ado, let's get stuck into the 5 most simple yet stupid mistakes we see guitar players making when they are looking to learn and master guitar. So the first thing that we're going to say, this is going to be mistake number 1, stupid mistake number 1, is going to be comparing progress. If you go on the internet, if you're around on the internet for long enough and you're checking out videos and, you know, progress videos and all different kinds of stuff, you're going to see people that can play the guitar better than you. That just goes without saying. You're going to see people that can play the guitar much better than you can, and it's disheartening, okay? So you just don't want to do it. You don't want to sit there and compare yourself to Joe Blogs or Jane Blogs in the video next to you, okay? You just don't want to get into that habit, because if you do, what you'll find out is that you will find out that you're not as good as that person is, or maybe that person plays that song better than you do. But what you also don't know is how many hours of practice that person may have put in, how long that person has been playing for, where that person's been studying. You don't know any of that background information unless, of course, you know these people personally. You're not going to want to know. You're not going to know where these people are actually getting their learning and all their resource from. So it's almost like it's out of context. So you don't want to get into the habit of looking over to that person and thinking, well, why can't I play like them? Or they play much better than me. I wish I could play like that. I'm no good at the guitar. I quit. It's a very, very slippery slope once you start kind of looking at the person in the lanes to the left and the right. Make sure you're just kind of sticking to what you're doing. Make sure you're focusing on what it is that you're good at, and make sure that you are really doubling down on the things that you're good at and progressing in your own time. So that would be point number 1. You wouldn't believe how many people I see doing that, in not only in when I'm meeting physical students, but just when I'm talking to you guys and looking at interactions on the internet as well. I think the internet's become such a catty place in terms of, you know, people you know, swiping out at each other and saying really nasty things and giving each other really horrible criticism. So you know, you just want to avoid you know, taking any criticism to heart, and also just, you know, looking and just seeing what's going on. Hey Mike, how's it going? Good to see you. Thanks for joining us tonight. So make sure you're sticking around to the end, because I'm actually going to be giving you probably my biggest pet peeve mistake that I see guitar players making. So I'm going to give you 5 points. I'm going to give you a bonus point at the end, and this is going to be the one that's going to change the game for everybody. Okay, so point number 1 was comparing your progress. For those of you that are joining us live, you can go back and check this out on the replay if you missed the first point. For the second point is thinking that you don't need to practice. The amount of people that I meet that believe that they don't need to practice the guitar is absolutely astronomical. There are very few things that we actually engage in on a daily basis that require a lot of practice. If you think about your career, you go in and you just churn out your job, unless you're, you know, you've got a job which requires you to learn a new thing every single day. We can usually rock up and do our job and go home, and we know what to expect and we know the outcomes, and we can just kind of churn out the daily grind. That isn't always going to be the case when it comes to learning the guitar. You're going to need to invest a bit of time. Now, you kind of think, right, well, I'm an adult now. I don't want to be investing time. I went to school, I went to high school, I hated it. I went to university, I've done my degree or whatever. I don't want to be investing time and energy into, you know, learning something. I want to just do it. And learning the guitar, you know, that's why we say learning the guitar. It doesn't work like that. You have to actually sit down, you have to knuckle under, you actually have to think about what it is that you want to do, and you actually have to invest a bit of time, okay? And that's something that a lot of people struggle with. They think, you know, especially I meet lots and lots of parents that think, okay, well, I send my child to football club or cricket or tennis or whatever sport it might be, or swimming lessons or whatever, and they don't have to practice that. So surely this is an after school club. Why does this require any more attention than anything else? It's well, because it doesn't fall into the category of a sport. You know, and if you could argue, if you wanted to be really, really good at whatever sport it was that you were doing, you would practice it. You know, he is still my brother. I have a younger brother, and he was really, really good when he was growing up at rugby. And he used to practice like rugby on his own. He used to practice kicking a rugby ball. He used to practice bowling a cricket ball in the back garden. He used to want to be really, really good at the sports he was playing. So he used to practice it. You know, and you could argue, okay, well, that's how he got as good as he got at those sports. But to think that you don't need to invest any time in guitar practice, or you're fooling yourself to think I can kind of coast by, you're not the exception to the rule. You need to make sure that you're investing your time. And the amount of times that I see people that kind of start out with the intention of practicing, but then just kind of think, do I really need to? And then fall away, and then all of a sudden they can't play the guitar, they believe they can't do it, and they quit. Massive, you know, it's a massive number of people. So that's point number 2. Point number 1 was comparing your progress, and point number 2, point number 1, compare your progress. Point number 2, thinking that you don't need to practice. If you've ever found yourself in that boat, you know, put a comment in the section below and just let me know. Be honest, guys, because we've all done it, and it's a crazy amount of people out there that actually do kind of fall into that category. Tip number 3 is probably more common nowadays than it was back when I was first learning the guitar, and that's only relying on free stuff. Okay, so YouTube and your mate showing you something, or a video online, like a free course, joining a free webinar but never actually buying the add-on courses at the end, or thinking, oh, they gave me a free webinar and then they tapped me up for like $50 for a course that they were flogging. Of course they did, because that's how they market these things. That's how they get these things going, and that's where you actually get the good detail. It's not in the free stuff, it's actually in the stuff that you're having to pay for. That's where the best information and the best tutoring comes from. You know, if you're only relying on the free resources that are out there, you know, click the link below and get my free cheat sheet on, you know, on chords or whatever it might be, you know. And even the guys that are in this group that I'm teaching, that we do some little live teaching with, you know, I can only help you so much. I've always, you know, recommended that you guys go and get yourself a physical guitar teacher, or pay for some sort of service, because it's, you know, I'm not talking about my services necessarily, because you guys are all over the world, but I would recommend getting some sort of teacher and getting them involved in your learning process, because that's where you're going to get real buy-in, because that person or whoever it is that's providing the service to you has to make sure that you can do it. They have to make sure you can do what it is that you want to do, because if you can't do it, you're not going to pay them, or you're not going to continue to pay them. If you're just getting a free webinar here and there and you're going to learn some chords, or, you know, I've gone to a free workshop and, you know, wondered why they tapped me up for a course at the end, or wanted me to join their guitar lessons or their drum lessons or whatever it was, you know, your results are only going to reflect the amount of investment that you've put into the process. And if you've not invested any time, so the practice again, but also the finances as well, you're not thinking about, okay, well, am I willing to pay someone to teach me to do this? Do I want to be able to do it bad enough? Because if you want to be able to do it, you'll pay somebody to teach you to do it. You know, I first started trying to teach myself the guitar, and it was horrible. It was terrible, and it just sounded awful. And my mum kind of was like, look, we need to start thinking about getting you some guitar lessons. You know, yeah, I was teaching myself little bits and bobs on the side, but I had to have a teacher in front of me to actually help me master the skills that I wanted to be able to do and learn the songs I wanted to be able to play. I wouldn't be teaching now if I didn't get a guitar teacher. So, you know, don't rely on the free stuff. Don't just think I can get, you know, free PDFs, or go online and sign up for free webinars and try and piece together my own kind of guitar package which is free. It doesn't really work like that. Even on YouTube, there's so much information out there, it's actually now detrimental to the learning process because you don't know where to start. So, you know, think about this. Make sure that you're investing in your talents. Make sure you're investing in the things that you actually want to be able to do. If you want to be able to play the guitar, don't just sit there and try and teach yourself, because how can you teach yourself something that you don't know? Get an older person, or someone, not necessarily an older person, it might be a younger person. For me, in situations like myself, it's usually when you're learning as a kid, it's always an older person in the community that comes in and teaches you the guitar. You know, back when we only had physical teachers, no YouTube, no nothing. But get somebody involved in your learning process. You know, you don't have to pay them a lot. It doesn't have to be a really expensive thing, but, you know, if you're paying somebody, or if you're paying for a service, that person has to deliver on that. So do think about that. Do think about that. It's one of the beauties of capitalism. But we're not going to get into that because there's some very angry people about all that kind of stuff out there in the internet world. Number 4, it kind of links in, but I would say don't cut corners. So if you need to learn scales, learn your scales. If there are certain chord things that you need to learn, like, you know, certain grips or inversions or whatever, learn those inversions. They're there for a reason. You want to make sure that you're learning them. You want to make sure that you're taking all the information in. Don't think that you can kind of edge around the side of the bits that you don't like, because the guitar is like building a house. Okay, learning the guitar is like building a house, and the bits that you're probably going to miss out on are mostly in the bits at the start of your learning of the guitar learning process. So you know the foundational things. If you've got a house and the foundation is shot to hell and it's not solid, the whole thing's going to come down. And if you try and dodge bits and bobs, whether it be theory, whether it be, you know, chord theory, scales, you know, rhythm, getting a good rhythm section down, you know, you're going to really struggle when it comes to the more advanced stuff that you're thinking I can actually learn. And then you're going to go into this big round circle spiral of despair where you're like, well, I should be able to play this and I can't, maybe the guitar isn't for me, and I quit. Be humble enough to sit there and go, right, I'm going to learn the basics. I'm not going to cut anything out. Whatever my teacher says I need to learn, that's what I'm going to learn. That's what I'm going to learn. That's massive. If you are hiring a teacher, and I've had this before in the past, not so much now because I'm pretty clear on the standard when I get students in, but when I first started teaching, I'd go up to a student and I'd say, okay, so time for your first lesson. I'd say, let me tell you what I want to learn. And I would be like, well, surely it's the guitar. It's like, yeah, but let me tell you specifically what I want to learn, and then I want you to teach me that. And it just doesn't work like that. You can't do that. So, you know, be thinking about, you know, the long game, and make sure that you're not cutting any corners. So let's just recap. Remember, I'm going to be giving you a bonus tip at the end, which is absolutely massive, and it's a game changer. And, you know, if you can avoid this thing, you're going to be, you know, leagues ahead of most people. Number 1 was comparing your progress. Don't compare your progress to other people, because you're on your own individual guitar learning journey. Number 2 would be, don't think that you don't need to practice, because you really do, and you probably need to practice more than you think that you do. Number 3 is don't rely on only free resources. Actually pay to learn, because you are going to get much better results if you're paying to learn than if you're trying to sit there and piece together your own free package of education. It doesn't work like that. Number 4 is going to be, don't cut the corners. So actually submit to the learning process, learn everything that you need to learn in order to achieve your goal. And this leads me on to number 5, and that's like, don't sit around having no plan. You know, even if you've bought a book, commit to going through the entire book, thinking, okay, I'm going to learn my chords first, or I'm going to learn my scales first, or I'm going to learn this basic song to the best of my ability before I move on to the next thing. Actually have a plan laid out for you. Any student that comes to me, there is a plan to their learning, especially in their early stages, because without a plan, you're just kind of like going with whatever kind of comes along, and you don't want that. You want to make sure that you're stepping into the right direction, and that you're actually making sure that you're making some serious progress, because the plan is the pathway, and if you've got no pathway, you're just kind of wandering around in the woods of guitar learning, and it's like, well, where the hell are we going to go? You know, 1 week I'm going to learn this song, and then I'm going to try and learn that solo, then I'm going to try and learn this chord progression. You're just going to get nowhere, and you're going to get nowhere really fast. And this leads me on to the bonus point, and this is absolutely massive. If you followed me this far, thank you so much for watching this on the replay. If you are watching this on YouTube, please make sure you're hitting the subscribe button, leaving your comments, your thoughts of what you've thought of today. And if I've missed anything out, you can feel free to add it in below there. Please make sure you're hitting that notification bell so that you are getting notified as to when we release new material. If you're watching this back on any of the Facebook platforms, please make sure you're going to the link above and you are clicking the group link, and you're joining the Facebook group of Inspire Music School Online, and you are getting your guitar questions tackled in real time. We take all your questions on, and we do live broadcasts where you can tune in and you can get your questions answered in real time live, and we help people all over the world. So this is the bonus thing. This is probably the most important thing that I would recommend that you avoid in order to not hinder your guitar learning journey, and that's believe your own hype. Musicians, guitarists in particular, they could be learning for 10 years, they could have been learning for 6 months and learned a few songs. They can become very egotistical, especially now that the internet has given us a certain level of anonymity. Hey Osama, how's it going? Especially now that we've got a lot of anonymity in the internet now. A lot of guitar players can start to believe their own hype. They have the best rig, they've got the best guitar, they know the best answer to everything, they have the best pedals configuration, they know how to EQ and amp the best. You're playing that wrong, your fingering is not quite great, you need to listen to me because I've mastered this. You wouldn't believe how many guitar players go through a few years of this, go through a few years of learning, and then end up like that. They're not nice people, for starters. They're not nice people. They can make you feel about that big and just make you not want to learn the guitar anymore anyway. But there's probably something else going on up there that makes people go like that. But stay humble, really stay humble when it comes to learning the guitar, because I'm still learning myself and I'm teaching other people. There's always something out there to learn. There's always someone to learn from. There's always something new out there that you didn't already know. So don't walk around thinking that you know everything. You know, make sure you're keeping in your mind, I don't know everything and I'm still learning and I'll always be learning. And if you take the approach of always learning, then you'll actually you won't be kind of pushing your opinions in people's faces into, I know I'm kind of doing this now, but you won't be from the standpoint of, let me tell you how you've played that wrong, or let me tell you, you know, going on and being a little keyboard warrior and saying about how that pedal's rubbish, how can you like that pedal, how can you like that amp, this is the best amp, because I've worked out this amp. A lot of people, you know, I play Gibson guitars, I like Gibson guitars. They haven't always had the shaky reputation that they've got now. They actually have a pretty long legacy of good quality instruments. And my guitar was made in the time that was actually going on, in the good quality days. But the amount of people that you know, they kind of turn, oh yeah, you play a Gibson now, do you? You know, it's like, who the hell are you, man? Like, seriously, you're like some John that lives in his mum's basement and plays Dungeons and Dragons and learns how to play the Game of Thrones soundtrack on guitar the best they can, and you know, 200 beats per minute. Or they're unemployed, sitting in their parents' spare room trying to learn how to play the Crossroads guitar solo, and they're going to tell you about what's right and wrong. You can tell this has happened to me quite a bit over the years. This is really sticks in my throat, and I don't usually get this like uppity, I guess, when I'm doing these lives. So if you're watching this back, if this is the first live you've ever seen of me, I'm actually a pretty alright guy. But yeah, don't believe your own hype. You don't know everything. You're not as good as you think you are. You're never as good as you think you are. You don't have to put yourself down all the time, but you know, don't sit there thinking, oh, you know, I know, you know, oh, I've got the ultimate delay, or you know, my reverb configuration is just far superior to yours, because that's just not impressive. If you're getting that up about your own pedal board configuration, like I've known people that have got pedals, like the amount of pedals they've got have like rivaled an air traffic control panel board. You know, you think, how the hell do you get it's like the Matrix looking down at that. Like, I get a headache just thinking, how am I going to get my head around what pedal does what? Do you need that many? Playing through your 50 watt practice amp with your Squier? Probably not. Probably not. And to tell me that you've got the best tone, or your tone is far superior to mine because the decibels are slightly different, or whatever it is that you're trying to pass off, seriously mate, nobody cares. Nobody cares at all. So, you know, let me just recap, because I feel myself kind of bubbling up under the surface. Tip number 1, avoid these 5 things. Tip number 1 is going to be, avoid comparing your own progress to other people. Don't do it. You're on your own journey, learn on your own journey. Number 2 is thinking that you don't need to practice. You do need to practice. You need to make sure you're investing in your talents. Number 3 is going to be relying only on free resources. You need to make sure that somewhere along the line, even if it's a small amount of money, you are paying a teacher, someone in your local community to teach you the guitar. Okay, it's a massive, massive game changer, and you'll get far more from it than if you just rely on free webinars, YouTube videos, and free PDF downloads. Trust me. Excuse me. Number 4 is going to be cutting corners. Make sure you are learning everything the way it's supposed to be learned properly. Learn it in its full. Learn it so that you're actually able to feel confident with it. Don't cut corners. If you cut corners, you're going to find that you're really going to struggle when you get further down the line. You want to learn more complicated stuff. The last point of the first 5 is having no plan. So just kind of going at it thinking, well, I'm just going to learn the guitar and see what I fancied learning, learning a new thing every day or whatever. It doesn't work like that. You need to make sure you've got some sort of structure, some sort of plan to your learning. There's different ways. You can, your teacher can give you that. If you're learning from a book, that's already a plan laid out for you. There's lots of online guitar systems that you pay for. Recommend having a look at those things. And the last thing, the most important thing, is not believing your own hype. Not becoming the guitar superhero that you believe that you are in your head, but you're actually not. You're always learning. Stay humble. Make sure that you're always investing in your own talents and making sure that you actually, being open to learning new things. And some people are going to have a different guitar set up to you. Some people are going to play things slightly differently from you. Some people are going to have a different opinion on different theory and different technique and what is best and what is not as good. A lot of guitar playing is subjective. Outside of the theory and outside of the basic technique stuff, a lot of what is good is subjective. Okay, meaning that it's different for everybody else. Okay, there isn't like an objective like this is good. So make sure you're thinking about that and keeping that at the forefront, because you'll be leagues ahead of every other guitar player in your community if you can do that. So those are 5 stupid mistakes that I see lots and lots and lots of guitar players making. Let me know which one you've made the most, because we've all made a couple of them, even if it's that last bonus one. Okay guys, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for those of you that have been joining me live tonight and checking in. For those of you that are just coming in now, please make sure you head back over the live replay and you are checking out all the points in succession and letting us know your thoughts. And if you've ever encountered any of these, be honest guys, because we've all done it. If you're watching this back on any of the other Facebook platforms, please make sure you're going to the link above and you are clicking the link and you are getting your questions answered in real time. We answer all your guitar questions, especially those beginners out there. We're really keen to help you guys. And if you're watching on YouTube, please make sure you're hitting that like and the subscribe button, and you're hitting that notification bell so you are getting notified as to when we release new content. We aim to release new content every week. Until next time guys, I'm going to go home. I'm tired. My name's Matt Dawson. Have a good evening. Bye.